Hello, I'm Mediocre Montgomery. Welcome back to the Mediocre Militia. My habitual viewers will notice that I've kind of abandoned my intro for this video. That was deliberate on my part. I felt that for this topic, it would be in poor taste. With that being said, I know. I didn't think I was capable of taking things seriously either. Yet here we are. I've recently gone down the rabbit hole of like our family tree. Long story short, I've kind of just been reaching out to everyone in the family that I can, think of. Just looking for any leads of interesting family members, that kind of thing. But a handful of days ago, I recently discovered that I have a great-grandfather named Matthew. Matthew was a World War I veteran and a moonshiner slash bootlegger, according to the findings and testimonies from my family members, which, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of sounds like Brad Pitt's character from Legends of the Fall. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, I didn't really obtain a lot of knowledge about his service in the First World War or the rum running. Sadly, maybe some continuous digging will produce some results. However, I did manage to obtain one of his old travel journals. And it turns out in the late 20s or 30s, he actually spent quite a bit of time in Africa. As if Grandpa Matthew couldn't get any fucking cooler, he fist fucks that threshold of intrigue. And there was just no possible way that I could not take the time to share this with, my viewers. So I want to make it clear that I'm not going to be sharing the entirety of the journal, for the sake of time and, skipping the mundane personal bits that I don't really think you guys would find interesting. I'm instead going to be reading the craziest story from his journal. Despite how crazy it is, I think it's a really poignant and touching story. And, I think it's a story that a lot of people could probably learn something from. Also, I had to transcribe the story onto my script, more or less for two reasons. One, the original journal itself is, extremely brittle, and I also have a hard time reading cursive. So, for that reason, I took the time to read it, write it back down on paper, in a format that I can read, effectively. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let me know if you find this story interesting and you want more, leave a thumbs up or a comment, that kind of thing. I'm actually going to attempt to take this seriously. There isn't really going to be anything interesting about me sitting here and reading off of, pieces of paper. So, I did manage to find one photo of him. The others were, a little tore up, didn't, kind of grainy. But, it's kind of a cool little photo. There weren't a lot of them anyhow. So I'm going to overlay the photo as I read from his journal. I have not taken the appropriate time to document my tumultuous adventures in the past month or so. My recollections seem so fuzzy despite only spending time in 4 villages. The designation of savages couldn't be further from the truth. Their culture and humble way of living off of the land is intoxicating. The civilized world knows nothing of humility and resourcefulness like these people do. I must confess that more than a few times I have forgotten about my life back home. There is an occasional sense of fleeting guilt when I consider the things I have left behind for selfish reasons. But I am convinced that any man on this planet would remain equally captivated if he were to experience the things that I have. I regretfully cannot summon the words to describe my admiration for Africa. However, it is imperative that I remain honest, because even paradise has its share of complications. The wildlife is beyond the description of exotic. Their beauty is only matched by their lethality. Thankfully, my curiosity and ignorance has not gotten me killed, although I would be lying if I said I haven't come close to feeling the kiss of death. I learned quickly that the tame appearance of a hippopotamus is strictly a facade. Fortunately, the sound of my rifle deterred the bastard that narrowly flipped our boat for seemingly no reason. In fact, as I sit here and write this, my translator killed a 4-foot venomous snake with his machete. I'll likely lose sleep tonight since the snake was practically inside of our tent. 2 days have passed since my last entry, and I am in no mood to take the time to write as the mosquitoes are particularly ravenous tonight. But this may likely be my last entry, and this is the only efficient way of venting my rage without disturbing the villagers. Something has murdered one of the family's children. It is suspected to be a lion because she had been dragged into the forest. I didn't know the girl well, but when you only live in a small place with 43 people total, they become familiar. They become friends. I barely know these people, and I don't even speak their native tongue, but the pain and fury lingering in the air is palpable, and it is something that transcends language, race, or creed. A hunting party is being formed as I jot this down with angst. I will be participating in the hunt. I feel it has become my duty. I am consumed by it, and if I do not act, I will never forgive myself. I have left a note to my family with the women of the tribe to be sent home in the event of my death. If I return with my life, I will attempt to conjure the strength to address this in my next entry. I managed to find my way back. It is now morning, and I have no idea how to explain what happened to the women or children of the tribe, because my translator was killed. I apologize for my poor handwriting if anyone ever reads this. My hands are still shaking and I've turned to drinking. The following statement documents the events after my previous entry. We wasted no time to begin pursuing the animal. I grabbed my 8-gauge side-by-side and my ammo belt. Then I dragged my crate of guns and ammo to the wagon to accommodate the other men in the hunting party. There were 6 of us all together. We set off and started where she had disappeared. I've never felt so sick in my life. You could see where she had been dragged through the tall grass towards the jungle. All that was left behind was one of her sandals and a piece of her little hand with 2 fingers attached but stripped to the bone. We tied up the mule and ditched the wagon at the mouth of the tree line. The brush was so dense that we had to split into 2 groups of 3. I was a puppy in a den of wolves, and I had the biggest gun. Before we knew it, we couldn't even hear the other team of men. My translator was visibly out of his element and looked like he had never held a gun in his life. I'm certain that our lives were now in the hands of our chef. The sun was almost down and the canopy soaked up most of the remaining light. We kept moving when all of a sudden we were stopped dead in our tracks by the pungent stench of blood. Everything became very quiet, as if every semblance of life in the surrounding area knew something evil was about to happen. Then to our immediate left, in some thick bushes, we hear a low howl and something snap. And we saw it, the other girl's sandal hanging on a limb of the bushes. Our chef carefully approaches the bushes with rifle aimed. As he grabbed the sandal, a dense, hairy arm grabs his ankle and begins slapping his skinny ass against 2 trees back and forth. His bones sounded like pine boards breaking. He was then fuck-whipped so hard into the dirt that his head ripped off. Then a hyper-intelligent man-eating gorilla jumped out of the bushes and knocked us to the ground. The gorilla then lifted me above its head. It was trying to pull me in half. My translator yelled "catch" and tossed my 8-gauge to me. Before I could do anything, the gorilla started stomping him like grapes to make wine. I was trying to load my gun while I was being held, and my translator's torso was reduced to a puddle with arms floating in it. I then rolled over and pressed the shotgun into the gorilla's fat forehead. Both barrels of the gun fired simultaneously, and I deleted its skull. Its body dropped me and fell to its knees while a geyser of blood sprayed out of its neck. Then I plunged my fists into its thick chest and dug around until I could rip the ape in half. As the gorilla split in half, the dead child slid out of the steaming viscera, half cooked from the stomach acid, a precocious little girl reduced to mangled slop. I spun around quickly with my gun to the sound of crackling and whimpering coming from the bushes. I reloaded and approached with caution, and beheld what appeared to be a big bird's nest, with baby gorillas hatching from their eggs. I just killed their mother for trying to provide food for them and protect them. I'm a monster, I said to myself. I'm a monster and I can't raise them, I said. I only had one option. I couldn't leave them there to die. I ran back to the wagon to redeem myself. Then I ran back with my Thompson submachine gun and started hosing the baby gorillas with .45 caliber slugs. They screamed and bounced around as they died. Then I smashed the unhatched gorilla eggs with my boot heel. The end. Pretty compelling story. If you guys would like to hear more from Grandpa Matthew's journal, I suppose I will read a little more if this video gets enough likes and appropriate comments. I'm Mediocre Montgomery. Deuces.
God, forgive me.
You stupid bastard.